Hello ladies and gents, it's EZScape and welcome to the top 10 luck dependent speedruns. When discussing luck in video games, most people look at the term RNG. RNG stands for random number generator and is what video games use to output random situations to the player. You would think that games with a ton of RNG would go completely untouched by speedrunners, but that's not the case at all. Why might you ask? Because of that feeling of getting a perfect run is the same feeling you get when you get that rare monster drop you've been grinding hours to get, or opening that pack on CSGO and getting that expensive skin you've always wanted. Also, reacting to random situations in video games requires being very skillful, which is another reason why RNG based games can be fun to speedrun. But in this list, I'm going to be going over games where RNG is present that the runner cannot work around and they have to hope for good luck or reset. Which means to get the world record for any of these runs means you need to get really good luck. I hope you all enjoy. The first run on this list is going to be Clue. Clue was released in 1998 for the PC and is a video game version of the board game Clue, where you need to find the murderer, the room Dr. Black was murdered in, and the murder weapon. At any point in this run, you can make your accusation, and if you guess the correct person, weapon, and room, you'll beat the game. There are 6 different suspects and murder weapons, and 9 different rooms, making this a 1 in 324 chance to beat the game with a random combination. The current world record for the speedrun is 0.733 seconds long. The next run on this list is any percent speedrun of Diablo. In order to get a fast time in this run, you're going to need a lot of luck. One of the biggest aspects of RNG is the map generation. Each dungeon is randomly generated by the game, and finding the exit can take a while if it's located far away, or you just take the wrong turn. Not only are dungeons insane RNG, but the ways in which you travel through them are also luck-based. There's a spell in Diablo called phasing, and this spell teleports you in one of the 4 cardinal directions at random. So sure, there's a chance you'll be skipping ahead quite a bit, but also a good chance you'll get sent backwards. Once you reach dungeon level 12, you no longer have to worry about phasing luck because you'll be acquiring the Book of Teleport. The only thing is you get the Book of Teleport by purchasing it in a shop, but there's a chance that the book won't be in stock. You have to keep reloading the game and hope it will be in stock. All of these aspects, especially in map generation, can completely kill a run. Just to show how much RNG affects the speedrun, there's a segmented run which exists that eliminates all RNG from the speedrun, and it saves almost 10 minutes from the current any percent world record of 12 minutes and 55 seconds. The next game on this list is The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus. The Binding of Isaac is a roguelike game, which means every run you do will be unique from the last. This means every run is completely RNG based, and you'll constantly be resetting in hopes to get good starting items. There are over 400 different items and over 1,000 different rooms to go through during this game, but only 25 items in each game is speedrun worthy. This means there are hundreds of rooms which aren't any good, which means for a lot of resetting. The reason for this being, speedrunners are going to want good items right off the bat for a strong start, rather than relying on pure RNG later on to get the good items. But just because you get a good item early on doesn't mean the game's going to be easy. You still have to find the exit of each level, and the game itself is also pretty difficult. The reason why Afterbirth Plus is on this list over the other 2 games, which are The Wrath of the Lamb and Rebirth, is because the other 2 have more useful items, which means you're more likely to get a good run on them than in Afterbirth Plus. It might sound like a chore to speedrun this game with all the RNG, but the RNG is what makes the game fun to run for speedrunners. The randomness makes each game feel fresh, and you'll have to come up with new strategies every time. The next game on this list is Dragon Quest Monsters. This game is an RPG where you have to capture, breed, and raise monsters to fight for each other, sort of like in Pokemon. However, this game exhibits roguelike elements in the fact that every floor is randomly generated. When you defeat monsters, you may get a chance for them to want to join your team, and you'll always be disbanding old party members for when the chance to get a newer, stronger party member emerges, or even breeding current party members together to get something better. In this game you have to compete in tournaments, and since this is a speedrun, you're not going to want to waste a lot of time training, and your monsters are going to have a tough time winning, so getting good damage rolls will be the most luck dependent part of this speedrun. Obtaining money in this run is also difficult, and you need to have a certain amount later on in the game before the merchants go on a selling cycle. If you don't reach them in time, it could cost 5 to 10 minutes for them to spawn again. Getting good monsters in the very beginning requires really good luck, and most of the time you will have to reset if nothing good pops up or decides to join your team. And lastly, map generation does play a big role of the speedrun, but you're able to manipulate it a bit by reloading the game later in the run. With perfect RNG, the current world record for the speedrun could be lowered by well over an hour. The next run on this list is Crash Bash. If you're not sure what Crash Bash is, it's a Crash Bandicoot party game, and much like the other games, it has a lot of RNG. First and foremost, the AI in this game can be pretty difficult, and their movement and actions are random, especially when you move on to higher level challenges. The any percent speedrun isn't as bad since you get to choose which minigames you like to play, which have a variable amount of RNG depending on which ones you choose, but the 200% speedrun is something I would definitely consider RNG hell. In the 200% run, you have to complete every challenge for each minigame, including the trophy, gem, crystal, and platinum challenges. Loads of the minigames contain a lot of RNG, but nothing really compares to the Pogo Paint or Platinum Challenge. In this minigame, you compete against your opponent by painting tiles on a grid. By pogoing on boxes, you receive the amount of points you get relative to how many tiles you've painted on the grid. During the Platinum Challenge, the AI are basically a tool-assisted level and can calculate the most efficient path in order to get the most points. So if you get unlucky and you don't get enough box spawns or power-ups, then the AI will certainly win, without even factoring the chance for human error. On top of this, one of the characters, Rillaroo, has a property that takes one less frame to jump, and this adds up over the entire minigame. With this in mind, it requires a hair more luck to an already luck-dependent minigame. Even if you're lucky enough to beat the AI once, you have to beat them 3 times in a row, and if you lose a single time, you have to start from the beginning. This single challenge can add multiple hours to the speedrun, yet technically can be beaten in under 4 minutes. The next run on this list is the any % random seed glitchless speedrun of Minecraft, and considering that the run has a word random in it, you already know that there's a lot of luck that goes into this run. The first instance of luck is which biome you receive, but the best one for speedrunning is the savanna biome, so speedrunners will reset if they get anything other than that. The reason it's so useful is because it has the most resources available, and savanna biomes almost always have desert biomes near them. You need a desert biome because they contain the most creatures including endermen, and are more likely to contain lava pools which are needed to get to the area in the game called the nether. In the nether, you have to kill another creature called a blaze. With the enderman and blaze drops put together, you get an Eye of Ender which will lead you to the endgame fortress. The fortress, however, can be as far as 1 block to over 1,000 blocks away from you after you leave the nether. After reaching the stronghold, you have to place down 12 Eyes of Ender and defeat the dragon. Speedrunners use beds to defeat the dragons because at the end of the game you can't sleep, and attempting to do so will blow up the bed, dealing damage to the dragon. The RNG aspect here is the dragon's movement. The movement is completely random, and if you get unlucky, you'll have to wait several minutes for the dragon to attack. If you were not to reset the game at all in this category, runs could take upwards to an hour or 2. The next game on this list is Mario Party 6. Now I know a lot of you probably expected to see Mario Party somewhere on this list, but I'm sure you're wondering why 6 is the one I chose for this list. So in most Mario Party games, you use dice rolls to advance to the board to reach stars, or you have to win minigames. But in Mario Party 6, you only have to advance to the end of the board to win. This means that the entire speedrun is completely reliant on good dice rolls and nothing else. In the world record run, the speedrunner named Judge was able to finish the first board in only 3 rolls by getting a 5, 3, and a 2 in order. These rolls will put you on the 2 happening spaces, which not only skip minigames, but advance you further through the board. The last roll, which is a 2, is needed to finish the board because you can't go past the last space. The chances of getting all 3 of those rolls consecutively would be a 1 in 216 chance. The rest of the run is pretty much just getting high rolls and short minigames. The next game, or games I should say, on this list is Pokemon Emerald and Firered. In the Pokemon Emerald category, there's a glitch called the Pomeg glitch, which has the ability to change your fly location to Evergrande City. This is done by making every Pokemon in your party KO'd by using Pomeg berries. In the any % speedrun, runners will get their Swampert to 1 HP and then use a Pomeg berry on it. The Pomeg berry lowers the HP EVs of a Pokemon by 10, and this will lower the HP of the Swampert by 1. This drops the HP to 0. After a few other steps, runners will scroll up in their party for 13 seconds while in an encounter. After running away from the encounter, there's a possibility that the flag location of Evergrande City will be set and you can fly straight to there. The guards only check to see if you have 6 of the badges, so as long as you beat the first 6 gym leaders, you'll be able to enter the Elite Four. The only problem is there's a 1 in 32 chance of actually getting the Evergrande fly location, and it's not until an hour and 30 minutes into the run. Plus you have to account for luck earlier in the run with several difficult fights, which has a 25% chance to end the run. Firered requires RNG in completely different areas. In this run you don't have a lot of money to use, and since Pokemon have a pretty good chance to break out of the Pokeballs, you may have to reset just for running out of money. Especially if you're in a Safari Zone where you can't weaken the Pokemon, and they run away if you miss them. Luckily you do get 30 of these Pokemon from gifts or easier catches, but for the other 30, good luck. The other half of the RNG are battles themselves. Since you have to save rare candies for evolving Pokemon, the Pokemon you use for battling are going to be a much lower level than the others, so good RNG is needed to win each battle. The next game on this list is Final Fantasy IX. Now it's true that almost every Final Fantasy game, or any Japanese RPG for that matter, contains a lot of RNG, but this game really stuck out to me for how many different areas there are to lose time compared to the others. One of the biggest RNG dependent factors that can waste time are random encounters. Unlike other Final Fantasy games, it's impossible to manipulate when, where, or what encounters you'll get. Getting encounters also wastes more time in Final Fantasy IX because they take a long time to load into and the fleeing animation is really long. There's also the chance that you won't be able to flee quickly, which wastes more time, or the rare chance that the encounter kills you. Then there's the third to last boss in the game called Death Guys, which starts with a move called Meteor. This move does random damage anywhere from 50 to 4900 and has a 1 in 8 chance to kill everyone in your party. And trust me, this is the last thing you would want happening 8.5 hours into a run. The final run on this list is Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories 100% speedrun. In order to get the 100% status, you have to unlock 689 out of the 722 cards in the game, with 33 of the cards being unobtainable. Obtaining these cards is one of the big reasons why this game is heavily luck dependent, because you get cards from winning duels, but which card you receive is all RNG. Some of the cards have odds up to 1 in 1024 chance to obtain. Not only do they have to have good luck when it comes to receiving these cards, but the duels themselves are heavily luck dependent. The AI in this game are extremely overpowered and beating them can be pretty challenging. Which cards the AI get and when they play them, as well as what cards the runner draws, are also RNG dependent. The current world record for the 100% speedrun is 98 hours, 8 minutes, and 18 seconds by Angstmaster, which is incredibly long. Even if you were to get perfect RNG with getting cards, this run would still be around 10 hours long, which is why it gets a #1 spot on this list. Alright everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like because it's the best way to show support for these videos and it only takes a second to do, and subscribe for more speedrunning related content. That's all I have to say guys, so goodbye and have a beautiful life.